All right, welcome everyone to today's episode. It is the 29th episode of the advisortech Book Live podcast. My guest today is Rachel Cameron, who is the head of partnerships at Nitrogen. Welcome, Rachel.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm glad to have you as well. So, what is your area of expertise, and maybe what does a head of partnerships even do?
Ooh, yeah. So what I focus on, so Nitrogen has basically three different areas of partnerships. We have our integrations. There's like 40, 50 integrations we have in place, anywhere from custodians and other tech partners. We also have partner store partners, which are asset managers and insurance companies partner with us for distribution. We also have model feeds that we get additional data from. And then the third part is partnerships with our broker dealers, large aggregator RIAs, effectively the institutions that aren't necessarily buying licenses themselves for advisors, but they have a network where they say, yeah, we give permission for you guys to partner or sell to advisors directly. And we want to work with you on marketing, compliance approval, events, just strategic alignment, things like that. And that's really what I do. So I specifically work with our largest broker dealer and RA aggregator partners to
Okay,
ensure that we unlock as much as we can for our advisor team. And so I really squarely focus on increasing the total addressable market for the company for increasing compliance and working with new partners. Slowly, I've been dabbling a little bit in integration partners. I kind of joke with them that I spotlight as their partner marketing person,
okay,
because I sit on the marketing team, so I can kind of facilitate different strategic marketing opportunities with them. And just in some other past roles I've had, it's really interesting for me to know how things are connected and how different companies work together and the value that they have for advisors. So I try to connect those dots as much as I can. And then beyond that, what's been the most surprising thing, but also really exciting, is just kind of sitting um, in sort of the middle of the planning committee for Fearless Investing Summit. So
okay.
me working with all those partners helps, additive for sponsors and main stage, and just kind of crafting a really great event with the different connections and third parties I work with.
That's really cool. No, so I
Mhm.
have I have a question immediately, but maybe we'll dive a bit more into your background. So, do you have three heads of partnerships, or are you that cover each of those topics, or do you work with a couple other people across the other partnership programs?
Yeah, just one. There's only one me, and then
Okay,
the like with asset managers and partner store, we have account managers that work with those partners. From time to time, I do get involved, just depending on if there's marketing or other distribution opportunities we can help with. I always like to know about them so that if it's additive to my broker dealer networks, like if they sell into one really well, or if they have strategic motions, like ultimately as additive to Nitrogen, if they're um, promoted, or just kind of knowledge of what funds or what insurance models are we bringing in that would help advisors in a specific network. So if that's kind of like it's if it's additive to the business, and I like to be involved in it, but I don't like oversee the program entirely. Um, so there's only one head of partnerships, which is me, and then the other relationships are just kind of owned either by product or by account managers, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, that's cool. So
Mhm.
I'm very interested in understanding how like large institutions think, especially around partnerships. I Bob Ferris recently sent out an email saying he was going to be speaking in front of like a bunch of really large, RAs, aggregators, broker dealers.
Mhm.
And what was the message that his listeners thought they needed to hear? And what I responded was something like, they need to pour into their humans. Like they need to figure out the very best way to, promote their advisors, pour into their humans, make sure they're happy, make sure they have the tools they need. And his comment back was like, yeah, that's the exact message that really doesn't resonate with these kinds of companies. um, so I was wondering, like, when you think about how institutions think about things, and then how maybe small businesses think about things, have
Mhm.
you run into that kind of? idea?
Um, yes, I think in every, every entity is just so different and how like the why behind it. Like, some of them are like, yeah, we just want to work with whatever logo our advisors want to work with and just make it easy for our advisors to have as much choice as possible.
Yeah.
Um, the flip side of that is that the broker dealer or the entity isn't able to go as deep with any one partner. So it's just kind of like very surface. It's great because we get access to everything, but you don't really get that deeper strategic alignment. And then you have others that really care about crafting the best experience and wanting to have that extra value add of what is the integration, what's the single sign on. Um, so I really think it depends on if the entity is creating like more of an advisor experience around how that advisor interfaces with the company as a whole in their partnership with the advisor. Like what do they want the advisor experience to be like? If they really care about like a deep integrated technology flow with all of the partners that they have, then ultimately I think that's more meaningful. But if you kind of miss the boat on that as being a technology partner within that network, then you kind of miss out on it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I worked for a CRM consulting company for a little while, and most of our clients were small RIAs, like 300 million was our average size. But then we started having some like larger, multi-billion dollar firms approach us about CRM consulting, some of them even with like thousands of advisors. And we were like, how do we teach thousands of advisors how to use the CRM better? Like that's like
Mhm.
the scale is just so different from like teaching a principal that owns his firm, has a few staff. um and I do think it's possible to do that. Have you seen any examples of like technology that has taught thousands of people how to use it really well?
Mm. Um, that's a really interesting question. It's rare that it's done well because I think that involves all of those thousands of advisors to also be engaged, which isn't always possible. Like, I always say that if you get 30% adoption in a firm, that's pretty damn good, because 1, there's choice, like, we have competitors, advisors have choice, that's totally fine, and 2, it also assumes that every single one of those advisors within that network is choosing something,
Yeah.
which is also not the case. So I think just to call out in a positive way, we work with prudential advisors quite a bit. They have a new strategic partnership with LPL. And they did a really wonderful job on their rollout, just with ensuring that their advisors knew about not just us, but all of the choices that they had now as being partnered with LPL. And what I'd love to see across other networks is they actually host like an annual meeting to tell partners this is the blueprint of how you can work with us and this is your best opportunity to get in front of our advisors. Do this and that and you will be good. And so I am always a big fan of if our partners are telling us something, let's listen to them. And so we try to do exactly that, and we've had a lot of success with working for them. So them even having a program in place and a blueprint to even share that with advisors, I don't think a lot of networks really have.
Yeah.
But I think some networks think that upselling a webinar or upselling a better position at their event warrants a lot of like deeper connection with it's really not going to move the needle. So it's more of that, what are we doing from the top down and the bottom up to really help drive the not awareness is the first challenge, driving awareness across all of them, all of the advisors, and then 2, getting that engagement from there.
Yeah. I mean, so you're almost like just getting approved on a platform is only the first step of a multi-step process to like
Mhm.
you still have to get the advisor's attention almost like in a marketing way.
Yep.
So like when it comes out and says so and so is now partnering with LPL, it's like, okay, great. Like 20,000 advisors have access to this now, but are they going to actually use it is the question.
Yep. Exactly. The awareness is always the hardest part. I mean, you could have a partnership in place for like 3 years and advisors still don't know that it exists and that they even have access to it. And then, secondly, what the capabilities are along with it.
Do once one of these partnerships is set up, do you have access to like email them all about it, or what kind of access do you typically get to like actually, you know, get the advisor's attention?
Yeah, yeah, we try to email is the best bet usually, even though emails are annoying and no one likes to get inundated with emails, but that's really the best way to meet them where they are. In-person events are even better, like regional events. It's really hard to scale that, but getting the face-to-face time, getting a face with a company and like a
Yeah.
person that they can reach out to is also really helpful. But yes, we try to ensure we can outbound as much as we can.
What what category does nitrogen fall into on like the Kits's map? Because I think originally it was probably in more like the risk tolerance questionnaire category, and then it moved to sales enablement. Do you
Yeah.
feel like sales enablement is a good place for it right now, or
That's such an interesting question. We actually asked, Kitsis came and talked to us at our sales kickoff last year, and someone asked him that very same question, like, why are we in sales enablement? And he had a really thoughtful answer, of course, as he always does about those things. And, last year at the time, Nitrogen's branded as a growth platform for advisors. And ultimately, we rebranded as a growth platform because advisors used the risk process that we have to grow more business. Um, Advisors, when they implement nitrogen in the process, they typically close 70 to 80% of their prospects in working with us. So it is a powerful tool for growth. Um, as we evolve into more specialized planning functionality, like we launched a tax planning last year.
hmm,
So we have a lot more products under our platform suite other than just risk now. And I don't know if specialized planning would be the appropriate one for that. Specialized planning is like way more niche. I think most of platforms in our category where we do multiple planning things, we might all feel this sort of heartburn. I mean,
yeah,
Ballista Plan starts as tax planning, but they also have insurance and estate now, but
right,
they're still in the tax planning category because that's what they're most known for.
yeah.
Wealth.com just launched a tax and they started as estate, so they're in the estate category. So will they remain there or will there be more of like maybe an all-in-one planning as there is for all-in-one portfolio management? I'm not sure how that'll evolve. I don't I don't hate being in sales enablement because it does speak to the value that we ultimately provide for advisors. But I think most of our advisors know us as and purchase us for risk analysis and portfolio analysis and proposals.
Yeah. No, so an interesting story. About 7 years ago, my first job in the industry, I was working for an advisor as like a paraplanner. Um, so I was coming like completely from outside the industry. All my experience with the software was around like, Robinhood, Wealthfront, like consumer facing apps.
Mhm,
And then I saw the technology that he was using, like the Redtail and the various custodians and the broker dealer. And Riskalyze was actually like my favorite technology.
mhm.
Um, it's actually in my book, it's like the 5th word in the introduction. It says it all started
Nice.
with Riskalyze.
Ooh, I love
Um,
that. I didn't know that, Joe.
yeah. So I think what I really loved about it back then was just like I loved it was just so simple to understand. Like the speed limit sign, I really loved the GPA score. Because when I came on, like a lot of clients were in like really bad portfolios, and I could very easily show like, hey, if we increase the GPA score, we can they can get more return for less risk, basically.
Mhm, mhm.
And I thought that was a super fun way to like show that the portfolios I was helping put together were better than the ones that they were in currently.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. That's the ethos that really spoke to me when I was first learning it. So, fun fact, I started working with Riskalyze back in 2016 when they first partnered with Black Diamond.
Okay.
I kind of raised my hand. I was on the service team at Black Diamond at the time and raise my hand to volunteer to like do something extra as I always did. So I was like the partner SME, and Riskalyze was our first big partner like that. And so I got to know the team back then. And so I've been working with them pretty adjacently for almost 10 years. And so that was really cool. It was very full circle because that's kind of what started me in partnerships in general, is working with Riskalyze. It was the first third party that I had worked with in that way. Um,
So
okay.
you weren't working at Riskalyze when they went through the rebrand, but you were aware of them prior to the rebrand and then post rebrand. What
Yeah.
do you know why they went from Riskalyze to Nitrogen? Like what the thinking was?
Yeah. So at the time, there were a few products under Riskalyze. Risk score, obviously, portfolio analysis and proposals, and then also a planning tool. So advisors could model forward planning. And ultimately, we knew that advisors used Riskalyze to help grow their practice. And that was really the why behind advisors choosing nitrogen, using it in all prospect meetings, using it in client meetings. Um, I think I mentioned this before, but advisors will typically close 80% of their prospects when they use nitrogen in the process. So it really was a powerful growth engine for them. And the kind of frou-frou marketing thing is nitrogen is the thing that helps all living things grow. And so nitrogen is the growth tool for advisors. And Riskalyze just being one part of that process. Um, at the time there's three, now there's five, you could argue, different products. So now nitrogen 2 years later is much more evolved to be a platform suite of products for advisors to use. And the products that we have beyond Riskalyze, most of them you can buy standalone, and not have to have even the risk scores as a part of your bundle. So a lot of people don't really know this yet, but we actually have a research product and proposals without even doing a risk tolerance questionnaire. So it kind of strips the risk score out of the process. So if you're an advisor that works at a broker dealer with maybe its own RTQ requirement, and our RTQ is kind of confusing the investor to have to do it twice, we have a standalone version now that you don't have to use our RTQ. You can use what's required, or use one that you've made up, or none at all, if that's not a part of your business. But yeah, nitrogen is kind of this, it's a representation of all the different planning products we have under our suite.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So what are the different categories again? You've got the risk tolerance questionnaire, the planning piece. You say there's a tax planning part as well?
Tax planning, research, you can buy a standalone now. And then we also have a note taker, a meeting note taker
Okay.
that kind of sits on top of all of it. And mostly it helps with prep right now. So advisors can use the data within the platform to help prep for a client meeting, create a one-page brief about the client using information about their questionnaire, their proposal, any of the models, the tax stuff that they've done, and then help with that prep. And then later on, we'll have more of the operational efficiency components that you see more in other, more evolved note takers.
For sure. What's maybe the most popular features? Is it still this the stuff around risk, or have some of the other features taken off as well?
Yeah, risk and research is our most popular. So a lot of our advisors love our proposals. And we make it really easy. You mentioned this before, just making it super easy for advisors to use nitrogen, and then that ease of use translates to the investor to help them be able to easily understand. And that's really the ethos of nitrogen that we carry through all the different products that we have. Um, so yeah, like the most popular definitely is the proposals. It just helps investors understand their portfolio in a way that they never really could before. And we have over 1 million assets that advisors can research. You mentioned the GPA before, that still persists in everything. Multi-view, advisors really like that.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And I believe at some point, like you actually even brought the Riskalyze name back into the product. Is that true?
Yeah. Yeah, you can buy Riskalyze as a product for
Nice.
sure. Hmm.
Cool. Um, do you want to go through some like so head of partnerships, like how you
Hmm.
got to that title, and then I'm sure you never set out like when you were young, like I want to be a head of partnerships someday, but
Yeah.
how you got there within the industry.
Yeah. Um, I really I'm really proud of my story. So my parents were both school teachers. My mom uh and I'm taking it way back, but I won't like harp
That's all
on
right.
my childhood at all. But
I haven't
my
heard someone
mom
say that they were proud of their story. That's a really cool way to
oh
start.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I'm proud of where I came from and all of that. I mean, my parents are school teachers. My mom was very ambitious in what she did. She was a school counselor when she retired. And she was always the mom that, when I was younger and I wanted to be a nurse, she's like, Rachel, why don't you just be a doctor? You're smart enough to be a doctor. It's only a few more years of school. Like, why not be the top? And so she would always instill and kind of encourage me to dream bigger than what I was dreaming for myself. So just, was able to like lift me up in that way. And so I always got a lot of confidence from her confidence in me. And so I always had this like entrepreneurial, very competitive spirit about me. Like whenever I did anything, I wanted to be the best at what I did, be a one of one. I like working with the team, but I love being a one of one. Um, and just being the only person that does what I do. So, uh, taking it back of like how I became in a partnership role, working at Black Diamond, I, really liked interfacing with clients, doing the service thing, but I knew that I didn't want to be in service my whole career and working in a client service role. There's just like a big grind around that. And it wasn't, I'm good at it, but it wasn't like filling my cup. So having the opportunity to start working actually with Riskalyze was the first partner I worked with, realizing that one, I could expand my network. And if I ever wanted to leave Black Diamond, I'm kind of putting more eggs in other baskets by working with other partners. Like, what a great opportunity to get to know different folks in different spaces. And then two, I was able to apply the entrepreneurial spirit that I always had to really impact every part of the business without being an owner. I was kind of like an influencer of
Yeah.
every single part. So I could influence sales by standing up a kick-ass partnership that helped them sell more, influence marketing calendar with all the different go-to-market things we did with the partner, influence product with the different API stuff that we did, influence support with the different support articles that I had and help educating them on who our partner network is. So the idea that I could influence every single part, but still being a one of one and like kind of creating a program the way that I really wanted to and bring that world-class service aspect to my partners. And also just getting to know people in the space. I'm an extrovert. I like getting to know others whenever we stood anything up. I loved asking about like, what is it that you do? Can I see a demo? I knew other peers of mine in my role weren't as intentional as I was, but I really wanted to bring that out. So when I left Black Diamond, we were, even though it's huge company, great company, still so many good friends there. But I really wanted to learn how to do partnerships really, really well. And like, what's the best way for me to do that? And so I thought, what better way than to kind of step outside of the industry and learn how a multi-vertical, more like ultra SaaS company is doing it. And that's why I chose to go to a company called Notarize, which does notarizations online. So very multi-vertical. Um, when I started there, I did not do financial services partnerships. I did automotive. So I kind of created the Kitsis map of automotive technologies for the company,
Cool.
and learned very quickly that an auto dealer owner is kind of similar to a wealth management owner. Um, same kind of you know, guy, very very busy, doesn't really like know a lot of technology, but knows that they want to use it. So like you're kind of getting their attention. So I thought those were funny parallels. But I ultimately learned like how to build it at scale, but also do business to business and direct to consumer partnerships. And like what kind of partnerships you need to form to really make that 1 + 1 = 3 in a company like that. And then that company startup, they were kind of picking people off, did some layoffs here and there. And so I got a call to start as a director of strategic partnerships at DPL Financial Partners to manage the Advent insurance marketplace for Black Diamond, which is what I stood up when I was at Black Diamond. So now I was the partner contact manager, whatever, for my old team. And so my old boss became my partner. Worked with them for a couple of years, and then now I'm back at Nitrogen. Kind of culmination of all the things that I really love about partnerships with a lot of different variety, lots of things thrown at me every day, and working with a lot of different companies. So yeah, that's really what I love working about partnerships and kind of how I got started.
Have you thought, like, with your own career, that you're building your own personal brand alongside the companies that you're working in? Like, has that been
Yeah.
part of the plan all along, or?
Yeah, I mean, the opportunity, years ago when everyone was on FinTwit, right? Like, um, I used that very intentionally, and I tried to create sort of a motto about myself that I still carry to this day, which is just be someone that other people want to work with. And the way that I email, the way that I respond, I can't take every single meeting, and I can't say yes to every single partner when they want to work with us, but I can be responsive. I can give a quick no. I can give explanations. Like I cannot stand ghosting. It's like the worst when you're working out a deal with someone and then they just ghost. Like, what is that? So I really try not to be that person. And I've gotten a lot of feedback about how refreshing it is to work with someone who's just responsive, even if there is no answer, even if it's a not right now, like how refreshing is that? Um, and so yeah, my personal brand is very important to me because that sticks with me no matter what company I'm with. And it helps people reach out to me, and if I need something, it helps get that response back. So it speaks volumes to just building your personal network over time for sure.
Yeah, no, that so I'm like literally the opposite. I'm like an extreme introvert. And so when I graduated from college, I had a ton of trouble getting jobs because I just didn't interview well. So I ended up being an
Hmm.
entrepreneur because I couldn't get jobs. But then more recently, especially like in the last 3 years, because of all my writing, like my last several positions have come from people that reached out to me, not from me like applying for a job.
Hmm.
Um, so
Yeah.
there's a Charlie Munger quote I've been saying more and more recently, but like the safest way to get what you deserve is to deserve it. So like if you become a
Mhm.
super desirable person to work with, then you won't have to go looking for work. Like work will come to you, which is it's a
Yeah.
really cool concept. Because also I've been in multiple situations where like I left a job or yeah, there were periods where I was searching and like it's a super hard place to be in when like you don't have a job and you're trying really hard to get a job. Um,
Hmm.
it
Yeah. It's always when you're not looking and when you
Right.
don't need one, do the offers come rolling in and you're like, this could be worse timing.
Yeah,
Um, I had a few years ago, I asked a mentor to look over my resume, and they were like, I'm happy to do that, but Rachel, at some point in your career, you won't need a resume anymore. Like that should be your goal to not have to maintain a resume. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I never really thought of that before.
yeah.
But it's so true. I mean, most entrepreneurs and people at certain levels, you're not applying to jobs. You're kind of your reputation is what gets you hired.
Yeah, no, this the same for me. So like my LinkedIn is my resume or my podcast or my, my writing on Substack. That becomes the representation of your work.
Mhm.
What do you have like a long-term goal for the Rachel Cameron brand or how do you think about that?
Um, I don't I don't really think about it. I mean, in one of the in one of the partner networks I'm in, that this chief partner officer is becoming more of a thing.
Okay.
I think that'd be really cool to see in wealth management. The partnership people are kind of those ones that are behind the scenes connecting a lot of dots. I mean, and we also are doing a lot without a huge team reporting to us. I don't have any direct reports
Oh,
at Nitrogen. So I'm resourced and the company's bought into what I'm doing, but and I can delegate, which is nice, but I don't have like a team, you know?
yeah,
So I'm doing a lot with a little. Um, what I typically do whenever I am in a moment where I'm like ready for the next thing and I'm reflecting, I write out for me, and I tell my mentees to do this too, but just write the three things that are most important to you in your next role. And that could change when I'm ready to start looking again. I'm not right now, but like when I'm ready to start looking at that could change from when I last started to look and I ultimately found nitrogen. So, what three things do you want? And so, whenever you're interviewing or evaluating opportunities, you can kind of look at them from those lenses and making sure that they're ticking off all the boxes for your next step.
yeah.
Um, I don't know, I don't know what that is for me. I don't really want to like put that out there quite yet because I don't want to
That's
box myself in too
right. That
much.
must be
But
bad karma or something to
yeah.
do that exercise at the wrong time.
Yeah. I'll have to say this at Nitrogen, it's the first time I've formally been on the marketing team, and I love it.
Yeah,
I love how creative the team is, how we work together, and the company's really uniquely positioned in that both marketing and sales reports into the same executive. So marketing really exists to support sales and really feed them, which I've been at other organizations where it's more oil and water. Like there's different uh, priorities that don't always match. And so it's really, really nice that almost every activity we do is really in service to the sales team.
yeah.
And so that's been really nice because it creates this really nice collaborative environment. And I certainly wouldn't want that to change, you know. And I really enjoy kind of getting comfy on a marketing team, which is the creative, you know, spirits all around.
No, for sure. Marketing is really fun. It's really hard to learn, though. At least for me, it's been really hard to learn. It feels like I've tried over and over and over to sell various things. But recently it's just been about like say things that no one else is willing to say that will like resonate really deeply with people. Um,
Hmm.
and that seems to work. So I'm enjoying kind of leaning into that. Although I you start to push boundaries but it's really fun to see like the more vulnerable you are or the more like you know stringing a different narrative it really gets people's
Hmm.
attention.
I I think, Joe, you're a better marketer than you're giving yourself credit for.
Yeah,
You want to know why?
sure.
Because you're consistent.
Yeah,
You're consistent. Like I've been a part of your community for only a number of weeks, but you show up consistently every single day. And that's really what marketing is. It's not really about like the fancy headline or like the catchy thing. Like if you have a message that other people can relate to and buy into and it's just real and you're doing it consistently, like that's good marketing to
yeah.
me.
No, I appreciate that. I started working
Mhm.
with a communication coach recently, and his number one feedback was like, you have very bold takes, but you're like constantly backpedaling. You know you're saying bold things, but you're like kind
Mhm.
of worried about saying it. So you're like everything
Yeah.
preambled and backpedaling. So like in the past couple of weeks, I've tried to like say bold things with like no backtracking. Um,
Yeah.
but then
Vulnerable to
yeah.
put your takes out there. Yeah. And especially for an introvert, you probably just want to like go hide after
Oh,
you do
absolutely. No, but like sometimes I wake up at 3 a.m. and I'm like, I have an idea or I execute on something, and then
Mhm.
later in the day, I'm like, did I seriously just write that? Uh,
Yeah.
but it's
Hmm.
fun. I want to go back to
Yeah.
something you mentioned about responsiveness, because like I've sent emails to people like Michael Kitzes or Josh Brown or Jason Wank like over the past few years,
Hmm.
and much of the time you like won't get a response.
Hmm.
Like Michael Kitzes, for example. I'm sure a ton of people try to email him all the time. He
Hmm.
physically, humanly just cannot possibly respond to everything. Um,
Hmm.
but then like when he finally did start responding, like his responses were like 2 pages of paragraphs. So like it was
Yeah.
clear that when he did decide to respond, like he put a lot of effort into it. Um,
Yeah.
do you have tips on like how to be super responsive, like especially as the volume increases?
Yeah. So I wouldn't put like ghosting in the same category as not responding to a cold email. I don't think that's the same thing as ghosting. To me,
Okay.
ghosting is like you've had a call, you have established next steps, but then it just goes dark for whatever reason. And I think that happens more often than people like to talk about because it's kind of like a little like, well, what's wrong with what I said? Or like, did it not resonate? Or like, did I do something wrong? Um, I think that is where more of where I'm coming from. Or like, if you're exploring, evaluating a deal of some sort, the business decides that it's just not going to work out or not the right timing, instead of just telling them it's not the right time, you just ghost. And that's more what I was referring to. Um, but like getting a response like from a cold message, I think it's also about how you show up in front of that person. Like how are you driving that value? Like we've talked about LinkedIn and like X a little bit, like when that was more of a thing. I think people want to work with who they like and who they trust. And so if you're showing up on LinkedIn and like commenting and being more visible in that way, I find that it helps get to a yes a lot better than if I'm just pestering someone in an email trying to get their attention in that way. So it kind of shows that you have more going on, like you are showing your value in other ways, and then like, okay, here's this opportunity that I'm presenting to you in my email beyond the value that I have. So like on the social media part of it.
Yeah. No, something I'm learning is like really successful people like already have 3 or 4 like main projects they're working on, and they're already at capacity. They've already said no to like 100 other offers. So
Hmm.
if you do want to get their attention, it's very much a long play, and you have to like absolutely show that you're adding value to what they're already working on, and not, trying to distract them with something else. Um,
Yeah, meet them where they are.
yeah. But
Hmm.
even so, like I have 200 emails in my inbox. I used to try to get to inbox zero like at least weekly, and now like I'm just not capable of doing it. I probably will at some point. But like same thing with my LinkedIn messages. Like I know I have like 10 unread LinkedIn messages, but there's just so much going on that, you have to actually set time aside to like go back and make sure you've responded to everything. It just gets
Yeah,
harder and harder as the volume ramps up. And then like you can be so distracted trying to get back to everybody, you don't actually get the thing done that you're trying to get done. So it
yeah,
almost becomes like a discipline practice at that point.
yeah. Especially when almost every email is like 3 steps to even clear out whatever request it is. So it's not just like an easy response. It's like you're actually doing a lot of string pulling behind the scenes to get that thing done. That can be tricky too. Um, I personally try to keep my inbox as a to-do list. And then even if it's like a note to myself of something strategically I need to think about, like I'll just email myself and that'll be my to-do list. That probably sounds insane to some people, but it works for me. Just to, and then if it's really important, I'll time block it on my calendar. So that's the thing that goes too. But yeah, like if people, some, I certainly cannot respond to every cold email either. But but definitely try to keep up and try not to do more than what I personally know I can do. Because like I said, I don't have a team, so it's not like I can like ask someone like, "Hey, can you handle this?" Like I'm doing it all.
Sure.
Yeah,
How are you using AI in your communication? Are you using AI or do you write everything yourself or
I write everything myself.
yeah.
Sometimes I ask chat to like, does this make sense? And then I'll like ask it to just scan for grammatical things. And I use Grammarly too for that. But sometimes I'll ask it to rewrite, but I never just like copy paste what chat sends. I'll always like go back and put it in my own words or, I just make sure it doesn't sound like I'm word vomiting like I am right now talking to you. I try to make it sound a little bit more concise and you know, whatever I can say, if I can cut it in half with chat, then I'll do that.
Yeah. No, yeah. So like when Chat GPT first came out, I was like super into it because I'm, very tech forward, and my wife was like, "This is terrible." Like, she was like even calling AI evil, and so, but like I got more and more into Chat GPT, like just you know, all throughout the day, like asking it questions, helping me write things. Um,
Mhm.
and then eventually I reached a point where I was like, what should I do with my Advisor Tech book brand? And it vomited out like seven different suggestions. And like individually, they're all decent suggestions. But then I
Mhm.
realized like relationships and partnerships are about human connection. So like if I have people in my network that I could ask, like their responses will be so much more valuable and meaningful than anything ChatGPT could say.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so kind of after I went through that experience, I like, canceled all my GPT subscriptions and I try not to use
Oh,
it
wow.
at all.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. As everyone probably tested out, like having it write original thoughts, I was like, this just does not sound like me. It's not the way that I type or talk, and I don't use it that way at all. Sometimes it's helpful to write outlines of things, like, if I need to create a deck or something, like help me outline this deck, and then I'll kind of use bits and pieces from that. Like that's been kind of neat to see like the how it storyboards things, but ultimately like I'm editing it to bits when I ask it to do something.
For sure. No, and
Hmm.
like I'm really leaning into personal branding and organic growth right now and just realizing like organic growth is actually like human transformation at its core. Like if you're making a certain amount of money and you want to make a lot more money, like you organically as a human being, like you need to grow. So it's the more I think about this, it's the more I become almost like anti-AI, and anything that's about like human growth, transformation, marketing, resonating with people. I'm probably going a little bit too overboard currently, but I feel like
Hmm.
at least I'm creating a force against all the pro AI stuff that's out in the industry right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I mean, at the end of the day, you still need discernment to use AI well, and that discernment doesn't come from AI. You have to have like that sort of raw experience to be able to use your discernment to use the tools well. So yeah, you mentioned you have young kids before. I'm kind of fearful for my young kids and like are they going to have capacity to critically think in a new world where like, we grew up with calculators being a controversy of like using calculators or not in your math class because you don't want the computers doing the thinking for you. But now it seems like it's insane to not use a calculator,
Sure.
even to add like 8 plus 5 some days. So yeah, I mean, but I think like in most aspects in life, critical thinking is still like the most important thing that we can do as humans because that's where original thought is born, just being able to think things through and being able to put stuff together in your head. um
Yeah, no, I love the word discernment. I recently wrote a Substack called like "What is Advice?" Because you can get an AI financial advisor for $1 a year right now, or you can
mm,
pay a human financial advisor, 10 grand a year or something. Um,
mhm.
so for me, it was like advice and then collaboration with another human being, deliberation. Someone recently said judgment. You use the word discernment. So like, what is this quality? What is discernment that humans have that AI doesn't have? Have you
Mm.
thought about that
um
more?
EQ, emotional intelligence,
Yeah,
context. um I mean, I think uh, like if we're having a conversation like this, like they're not really going to pick up on a lot of like emotional nuance or like, my arms across, I just took a deep breath, like, I'm deep in thought, but like will a chat pick up on that if it's just listening and providing recommendations based on that? I don't know. Um So to me, it's just kind of like that depth of context of like why are they why do they think the way that they do, or like what's the family situation, what's the emotion behind it.
Yeah. So a software program can't feel emotion. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, it's probably years to go from that. I don't know that I don't think so.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think so. Not I haven't heard that from the tools. I mean, some of them I think you can ask some of the tools like, how was that meeting? Like, did I talk too much? Like, did I, say the right things? And like it kind of helps pick up on some of that emotional stuff, but I'm I can't really give like a specific example, but like just the human nuance of decision making. I haven't heard of one that really like nails it, you know?
Yeah. I mean, what's super interesting about AI is just like we're almost getting to the point like what is a human? Um,
Hmm.
like what is intelligence?
Hmm.
Because artificial intelligence can be smarter than a human. I think because it can have access to like more knowledge than a human brain could ever fathom. Um, so yeah, it does kind of lead to what is a human.
Mm. Now we're going real deep. I'd need some
No.
coffee
Okay.
or maybe some
All right.
wine to.
What's yeah, what topic do you wanna finish on? We got a few more minutes.
Oh man. Well, can I plug our Fearless Investing Summit?
Go for it.
All right. Come to Fearless. Joe, come to Fearless. Come with us to Denver. Um, so 3 days, February 18th through 20th, just in a couple weeks. Um, our room block closes tomorrow.
Okay.
But we will have Josh Brown there, Michael Kitsis, an Olympic bobsledder. Johnny is going to be keynoting for us. Lots of panels. One of our last panels on Friday is an AI panel where we're going to have the CEO of Jump, Parker, and CEO of Zox, and Eric Clark, and our CEO, Dan Zitting,
Cool.
all just talking about like AI note takers, AI and client communications. I think that one's going to be really cool. You rarely see like really staunch competitors just going head to head with each other in that way. Not that they'll be going head to head, but that one's going to be really cool to me. Just kind of like hearing what they all have to say at the same time. So, um, so yeah.
Yeah, what sets I'm sure you've been to a ton of conferences. What sets the Fearless conference apart from like other conferences?
Yeah, so it'll be my fifth Fearless, fourth in person. I did virtual the last time. I really think Fearless has like a really nice heart and soul to it. I always have, just because the team is so great, and really there's like a whole team of servant leaders at Nitrogen that really cares about our clients, and we really have like deep relationships with our clients. We really care about their experience and the sponsor experience. So we're not using like all these third-party services to put the conference together. Like it really is our team that's doing it. And so there's just like a really nice vibe and heart and soul to it. And that's evidence in our spouse ticket. So it's not uncommon to have advisors bring their spouse at the end and, for dinners, as well as kids running around for the dinner. So it feels a lot more casual in that way. But there's also like I've never left a Fearless Summit like wishing that I hadn't gone or felt like it was a waste of my time. Like there's all kinds of opportunities there from a partner standpoint, and advisors that show up and who are engaged. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I've always enjoyed the heart and soul of it for sure.
No, that's really cool. Like the first conference I went to was an XYPN Live, and like they're known for like everybody's wearing t-shirts and shorts.
Yeah.
And then Future Proof is obviously very casual. So it's these I feel like these kinds of conferences are in the same category. Like the most modern, the most casual, the coolest speakers, um,
Yeah.
the most important topics.
Yep. You just show up exactly how you are
Yeah.
and and go for
Awesome.
it.
All right. Well, it's been a blast having you on the podcast today. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me. It was really fun.